Hey friends, welcome back to the show. Today we are being joined by my dear friend who I have known for quite some time. We met in the wilderness. We were just talking about it at an incredible event for industry creators, creatives, and entrepreneurs. And it was literally camp, and it was like so cold in Canada. And that's where we met. And we hit it off, and we just love each other. So I'm excited because we actually haven't had a chance to chat in a long time. So you guys are going to come alongside us while we actually get to catch up and hear all about her business. But the incredible Tracey Jazmin, she is a holistic business coach. She helps ambitious women, entrepreneurs who want to gain clarity, confidence, and momentum in their businesses. She's got over a decade of experience building 3 businesses. And this is the coolest thing about her. And this is what we're going to be talking about in this episode. She uses neuroscience, strategy, and spirituality to help clients scale sustainably. She's known for her no fluff, grounded approach. And more than anything, Tracey empowers women to trust themselves, make bold moves, and create success on their terms. And that is what we're talking about today. I'm so excited because I feel like she's just got so much to share. So before we dive in to like all the episode goodness, Tracey, A, welcome, and B, tell us like how you got to doing what you're doing now.
Oh my God, this is the story that I feel like is like, okay, set your watch because it's going to be a long one. I'm so glad that I'm here. Oh my gosh, this has been a long time manifestation. I think we were talking about this before. I'm like, I want to be on Lily's podcast. We need to connect. We need to do this. We need to do this. And like, you know, life happens, business happens, and it's like always been there. But maybe that's just like proof of manifestation 101. You just got to put it out there and let it go. And it always happens when it's supposed to. And so how did I get started here? Oh my gosh. I started my journey as a wedding photographer. Feels like 800 years ago now, but when I was a ripe young 23-year-old and did that for about 6 years, doing wedding photography for a while, I realized it was getting a little bit monotonous. I was busy only on the weekends in the summer in Canada. That's all we get. We get like literally 2 months of summer. And so to enjoy that or go like camping or enjoy a weekend to myself, it was kind of impossible. And so I needed a lifestyle shift. I needed a lifestyle change. I needed to be able to do business on my terms. So I started to shift and pivot. When I was working with my couples, they had stunning homes that were so beautifully designed. And I love interior design. I'm like, this is it. I'll be in Style at Home magazine and on HGTV, and I'll just take photos of beautiful spaces, and I don't even have to talk to anybody. I can do this whenever the heck I want. I'll just be flown around the world, and that'll be it. And so I went down that path. I reached out to an interior designer here in Edmonton, and she didn't get back to me for months. Long story short, it did work out. We did the shoot. We got featured in an online publication, I guess, right? And it was kind of the rest is history. But then I didn't realize she actually had a blog. So before influencers were a thing, she was doing it the old school way. And she said, would you photograph all the photos and all the content for my blog? And I was like, yeah, sure, sign me up. Enter the era of brand photography. And so that's when I started to do that. And like we joked that we coined the phrase brand photography because it wasn't a thing. Like in 2017, like it wasn't really a thing, right? And so she was the exception to the rule. She needed a lot of content. So anyways, long story short, made packages, did that. And then that is when I feel like all of the pieces of my life came together and that puzzle, like I found the missing puzzle piece. So I loved weddings. I loved brand photography. I was great at both of them. But when I pulled all those pieces together, it led me into business coaching, which is what I'm doing now. And so like when you go to the hairstylist and you kind of overshare and you give maybe a little bit too much information as to like what's really going on for you, that would happen in brand sessions. And
I love that.
yeah, that's exactly what it is, right? I'd hear all the stories, what's going on for them, all of their struggles. But then I started to realize like, she's going through the same thing and she's going through the same thing. And so is she, and so is she, and so is she. And I saw myself in all of their stories. And I'm like, and I've been through all of these things too, the lack of belief and lack of trust in yourself and faking it till you make it and having no confidence and all of those pieces that come up in entrepreneurship, right? It's like the fast track to self-development. And so it was in that moment that I'd give wisdom and I'd share, I'd help any way I could. I love seeing women succeed. And I was just like, okay, this wisdom is helping them. This wisdom is getting them somewhere. My past experience is helping them. And I always loved psychology. I was the kid growing up, bless my parents, who was like, yeah, but why? Yeah, but why? And why are they doing that? And why is that happening? And how does that make sense? I'm just always trying to understand the world, understand people. I'm very curious. I
Yeah.
want to know why people do what they do. And so I joked, I'm like, I should have become a psychologist, but this is way more fun, to be honest with you. So now I take all of these pieces and I weave it together. So I thought if I got certified and like I actually knew like what I was doing, I wasn't just being like, here's what I've tried. This is what's worked for me. Could I actually help someone get to like not just that surface level, right? I felt like I was like surface level helping them, where it's like the pain wasn't really going away. And so it's like, okay, if I could figure out that root thing for them in the psychology side of things, which I didn't even realize neuroscience was like a thing. Like obviously I knew it existed, but I didn't really like enjoy it. It wasn't really something. And then I love planning. Like, give me your problem and you want to go from A to B. I will write out the whole plan for how you're going to get there. Every single step like brings me the most joy. And then spirituality, obviously, is a big piece of it. Whoever you look to, whatever, you know, that energy or source is for you, that has to be a part of it too. And so I kind of realized like all of these pieces were a part of my story and my journey. I needed all three of these in order to genuinely succeed. I tried with just strategy and I burnt myself out. I tried with, you know, just the spiritual piece, like listening to, what was that book back in the day? The Secret. Do you remember that book? The Secret, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all of that stuff. But like it was too fluffy for me, right? I couldn't really like grasp it. And I was like, I'm just going to like, you know, put my hands together, pray and believe, and it's all going to work out. It wasn't really working. And so I created my own method, my own unique method that got results for myself. And then I started to try it on all of these other women as well. And so I got certified in neurolinguistic programming, which essentially just means the language of your brain. When someone speaks, I can understand what's going on for them in their own head. And I can tell when they're speaking from like logic, and I can tell when they're speaking from like their subconscious, that like deeper inner truth for them. And so I pulled all these pieces together. And now that's how I've gotten to where I am as a holistic business coach. So I take into account you as a human being, not just your business, right? KPIs and all of these things we want to track are important, but without you, there's no business. And so we got to take into consideration you and all of your past experiences and what you've been through and your family, your history, all of those pieces are dictating how you move and the success you have. So that's how I got to where I am. Long story short.
That's so fascinating to me because I feel like there were several things you touched on that I want to like kind of dig into. First, I think it's really encouraging and just refreshing to hear that you were like, I want to do this thing. The appropriate step to take is to get certified and actually educate myself as well as possible before I educate others. Listen, like, let's be real about how rare that is in our industry. I mean, that's why I do what I do working with educators day in and day out, is because we have a completely unregulated industry when it comes
Exactly.
to helping others. And I'm like, I wish everybody was like, the right course of action here is to get real education before educating others. So props on that. Like, that's amazing. Did you go into it knowing, I mean, I know that you said you had like started sharing, you had started helping others, you had started with the strategy part. When you went in and you sought out like a deeper understanding of what it is that you wanted to teach or what it is that you wanted to help others with, I mean, how did you go into that? Was it even a thought for you? Was it just like, no, this makes sense?
It was not a thought. I didn't really know where I was going. And I think this is like the epitome of my journey as an entrepreneur. Where am I going? And I have one breadcrumb. Right. And I
Yeah.
just like, okay, that feels right. Okay, that feels right. Like I was literally in Cuba with my best friend and we were sitting down at the lobby and I was like, I think I'm supposed to be a business coach. And she was like, yeah, duh. And I'm like, what the heck? Like,
I love when our friends can like, they can see it before we can see it. You know what I mean? They like see things, and other people can see things so much more easily in us than we can.
totally. And it was in that moment that I'm like, first of all, how does that even work? How do you be a business coach? How do you become a business coach? Like, I'm somebody who looks for credentials. I'm somebody who cares about that. Like, that's me as a buyer. And, you know, mindset to me, I started to learn because I did the spiritual side of it that, yes, okay, there is that component, but there's a science component to it. And that science component is actually what helped me change. And like, that's what actually helped me like make progress on like all of my patterns that were holding me back. Without it, I kind of just kept like spinning around in circles and like I'm journaling and I'm using these things and it should be like all working out, but why isn't it? And so that's when like the psychology and neuroscience piece came into it. And I ended up going down that road of like, if I could get educated on someone's mind, because again, that is a big responsibility to put somebody's like brain, not in your hands, but like they're trusting you to truly help them rewire parts of themselves, right? Like I was like, there's no way. There's no way I'm going down that road without proper training. I will not be that girl. And that was something that I noticed in the industry that was lacking as well, because I was looking for it. I'm looking for it and it's not there. Right. I'm just like getting, not really certified or like just certified as a coach. And I'm like, but how? And like in what? And how specifically would you help me? And so I went down that road. Like I put it out there that I wanted to be a business coach. And then I ended up connecting with a woman on Instagram, as you do when you're down the rabbit holes. And she taught me a lot about the subconscious mind, and she was certified as an NLP practitioner. So I went down that route because I loved everything that she was sharing. And it's actually what got me to stop burning myself out. Like it was in her program that I had one of the biggest breakthroughs, I think, ever, because it really led all the way back to me as a kid. I grew up with a narcissistic parent. And so my self-worth and if I was good enough was always undermined growing up. And that was the root cause of my burnout. But I didn't know that. I just thought I sucked at time management. I just thought that I just had to say yes to everything. I had FOMO. The truth is I actually have JOMO. Like I have the joy of missing out. I do not care to miss out on things 99% of the time. I love being alone. I love being by myself. But I didn't realize that burnout had such a deeper root for me. And so I see it in every woman that I coach now, that this surface level thing we're kind of think we've got going on, we can kind of tell it's something there. It always goes back to something deeper. Whether you're 5 years old, 6 years old, 10 years old, 22, it's always something that was said that one time that thing happened, or there was a season of your life of this. And so when I like realized that is truly what like sent me on the trajectory that I'm on now, because I felt like I got the cheat code to life. I felt like I got the like, oh my God, like I don't have to stay this way. Like this doesn't have to like continue happening for me. And so I had like so much hope for my future, and that I got like the remote control back to my life.
I love that. I think that's so special. And I think it's also extremely important that it's something that you went through first before stepping into the role of helping others. So I'd love to hear kind of like, what is the process of working with you like? And I think our listeners would really love this, because I think about who's listening to So Here's the Thing, and it's so many people who educate in so many different ways, but we all kind of see that copy paste of like what coaching looks like, what this mastermind looks like. And as you mentioned, actually, when you were like, oh, brand photography wasn't a thing, we've been around the block at this point, you and I,
Oh, yeah.
and we've seen, I remember when masterminds were a new thing, and I was like, this isn't new. Like everybody across industries does this, but it's new to our industry. And now everybody does it in this way that I'm like, would we call that a mastermind? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they take on their own titles. So I feel like business coaching and like the terminology of like, I'm a business coach, or I'm a strategist, or I'm a mentor, or whatever they want to call themselves, like it has a quote unquote dictionary definition in their minds. But to me, it's so different based on who's doing the coaching. So I'd love to hear your process with your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a coach and a mentor. I pull in all of those. So my clients will say it's like working with one part best friend, one part business coach, and one part therapist. And so for me, I am truly about seeing the woman first. I want to see
Oh my
you,
gosh,
and I
wait,
want to
because
see.
I have to have all three of those people in my life at all times.
Right. And I
Wait,
love
like
to be.
I could have cut out all three of them and just hired you.
There you go. I love being all of those things, because we do need all of those things, right? So sometimes I'll tell my client, like, okay, what I think doesn't matter, right? And because I can see they need to build up trust within themselves. And so they're constantly asking me, like, Tracey, what do you think? What do you think about this decision? How do you think I should do this? How do you think? Da 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 da. And what I think about your business and how you move it forward literally means effing nothing. right? Like it means nothing. This is your business. And so I can see what they need deeper down. If they're always asking me that, it's probably because they're lacking trust in themselves, right? And so I'm looking at the mentoring side of things where here's my experience, here's what I've done, here's what worked for me, but take this with a grain of salt because I don't want you to apply what I did. I want you to listen to what I did, and I want you to see and feel within yourself, your body, does that feel right for me? Not will that work? Will that get me clients? Will that make me get sales? Da 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 da. Right? I want you to like, look at all the options and be like, this feels really exciting. This feels really good for me. Because if you're building a business and it is an uphill slog and you're pushing a boulder up a hill, you're going to quit. It's not fun, right? There's got to be some fun in your business. And then the other piece is being the educator. So I love educating them on their brain. What's going on for you? And this is what's happening. And here are those dots, da, 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 da. And then I love being the coach where the whole process is I'm hypothesizing when someone's speaking. And so I'm like, I think this is what's going on for them. I think this is what's happening. And I can sort of like get a grasp. And so asking those questions to get more clarity for myself. And then once I feel like I've got a pretty good idea, helping them kind of get to that realization on their own, just with questions. That's it. Right. And so I put on all three of those hats, and then I put on all three of those hats underneath all three of those pillars of the neuroscience, the spirituality, and the strategy. So some sessions are 70% mindset, 30% strategy, some all mindset, some all strategy. Like the process that I've created is not a cookie cutter. It will never be the same. And so many women ask, like, what is it like to work with you? And it is truly the most personalized, tailored, like experience, because I'm sitting here listening to your language and like what's going on for you, your body language, your eye movements, all of those things are telling me exactly what's kind of going on for you. So like I had a woman I was coaching this week and she's talking about like, I should have routine and I need routine and I need routine. And she's got twin girls and she's a busy woman. And so it's just like, I don't actually know if routine is genuinely going to help you. I know that we've heard this. This is what I should do. And I said, but what if you didn't? Like, what if you didn't do that? And I kept hearing like, I should be doing this. I should be doing this. I should be doing this. And I said, like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you actually want to do first? And I said, it sounds like you just want to be the woman who like is present, who moves her body, who like, does the wellness things that are important to her. But when you do them, doesn't actually matter to you. And she was like, yeah, it actually doesn't matter to me at all. And I'm like, okay, so how would that look then? And so allowing her to like build her business and her life again on her terms in a way that works for her, instead of like, everybody says you should have a morning routine. And if you don't have one, you're not successful or you're failing or you're never going to get there. Right? It's just not true.
Yeah. I love that you tailor it to each individual, not just in terms of tailoring the advice, but like the process itself sounds really unique. And I think that's really cool. Like, I'd love to hear more about the role that the spirituality and the neuroscience takes, like in conjunction with the strategy, because that's something I think a lot of people, including myself, are pretty unfamiliar with when it comes to like business coaching.
Yeah, I think we're all really clear on strategy, right? That's like the external pieces, the marketing, the like stuff that we like love to get our hands deep in, but then we forget about ourselves. I think that's what it really comes back to, is like we forget about us, we forget about our intuition, we forget about trusting ourselves, right? We're looking for all of these things outside of us. That's like, maybe just like press pause for a sec, take a step back. Does this align with your values? Does this align with the woman you want to be? Does this make sense with like how you want to drive your business forward and the lifestyle that you'd love? Does this make sense? Right? Like there's so many strategic things we can do, right? Like there's a million ideas out there, but like, do we ever, before we jump in, take a minute to assess how it fits with us and like who we are as women and like, what are your values? Right? Like I had a woman I'm coaching right now and she's wanting to leave her 9 to 5 and move into entrepreneurship fully. And she's like, okay, so I think my path would be I'll leave this job and I'll start a whole new job as like a completely different career. She's like, so that'll take me 2 years to build up and then I'll do my business. And she was like so ready and so like on the path. And I said, can we just like hit pause here for a sec? Does that actually feel right for you? Is this a decision that's made out of like intuition and that inner knowing, that like gut feeling of like, yes, this is it for me? Or is that fear, lack, worry, doubt? And she was like, oh my God, thank you for illuminating that for me. This is not the direction I want to go at all. This is totally my fear coming up. And now she's like back on track. So I joke with my clients, I'm like the rumble strips on the highway. I don't know if you guys have them in the States, but like if you go over the line, it like
Yeah.
rumbles your car tire. That's what I am for my clients. So they're like, maybe we should take a left. And I'm like, you said we were going straight. Like, are you sure? I'm like, well, it looks fun over there. And it's like, yeah, we said we're going straight. So let's just continue straight, but we'll put that destination on the like journey later on. You know what I mean? Like we'll keep the idea there, but let's like focus on this one thing. And so that's what that looks like for each person.
I love that. I'm also like so interested because you had said sometimes your sessions are 70% mindset, 30% strategy, or vice versa, or whatever. I feel like when people hear mindset, and I say people, it's me. For years, like, mindset is just not, like, that's just fluffy word. Like, I don't like, I'm fine. Give me the facts, give me the numbers, give me the KPIs. But I realized years in, and as I started coming up against some major growth in areas that I was maybe like unprepared to see growth, that I was standing in my own way in so many ways. And I had so many like deep-seated, deep-rooted fears of success, fears of visibility. And those are things that I'm like actively working on. So, I always joke that like my podcast listeners hear things that like no one on Instagram hears until they're like fixed. But I'm still in the process of working through that. And so I can recognize now the importance of mindset. And I'd love to hear like your expert definition, opinion, like what is mindset work like and why is it important? And what is different between the misconception of, oh, mindset's just like a vibe, you know what I mean? Versus the reality.
Totally. This was me when I was like 17 years old, being like, oh, I'm just going to like journal and write out my mindset thoughts and that'll be fine. And that's it. Right. Like I didn't understand what mindset truly was. And I think a lot of us don't. And essentially it's really cool when I got into the neuroscience world and the psychology world, like we were born with just pure little innocent babes with like no beliefs, right? We learned every single thing that we have in our beautiful brains right now. Our self-perception of who we are, we were taught that, right? We were taught all of these stories, like your money mindset. You learned that. You weren't born that way. And so when I started to understand that, I was like, oh my gosh, all of this is learned. So all of this can be unlearned. And so mindset is truly, the definition is right. It's a set of beliefs, like, and it is a filter of how you see the world, right? So you wake up in the morning, you drop the milk on the floor. Depending on your current mindset for that day, it's either going to be a catastrophe and you're going to be late and everything's wrong and that's just a day, or it's going to be like, okay, whatever, clean it up, get it over with, move on with my day. Right? But like, depending on your mindset in that day, your emotions, all of those pieces, it affects how you're seeing it. So for example, say somebody ghosted you, right? You've been in business long enough. We've got the beliefs and things and you're not really too worried about it. Something must have just went on for them. You're not too stressed. Me, I'm a new business owner and that happens to me. My perception of it is they don't like me. They must not want to work with me. I must suck. Oh my God, my business is going to crumble. I'm going to be penniless, live in a cardboard box, like as our brain does in those beautiful thought spiral moments, right? Our mindsets are different, right? Your perception is like, it's all going to work out. It's fine because you've got that belief system built up in a way where you're seeing it from like a more positive, empowering perspective. Like you can see that. Whereas me, I don't have that yet, right? I don't have that trust and confidence and all of that belief in myself built up. So my brain is filtering it as detrimental. This is terrible. This is awful, right? This is how we like go down like worst case scenario road, right? And then you can also use that same beautiful imagination that you have to go down best case scenario road, right? And so mindset is essentially how you see the world, right? Every single thing that happens to you is neutral. You are the one who assigns it meaning based on what you've been through and what you've learned and picked up from every single person who's raised you, right?
Yeah,
So,
quick question. So what is something that we can do to, I don't want to say, I mean, would you say correct your mindset? Like course correct? Like how would you even phrase like
yeah.
making it better?
Totally. Totally. I always say to my clients, you are whole as you are. You are a beautiful human. You are not broken, and there's nothing that needs fixing. There's no problems. But there's always opportunities. And we get to a point, like you're at a point now where you're like, okay, fear of visibility, fear of success. That wasn't really a thing before, but it was probably maybe still there, or it maybe only came up as you've, expanded and grown and like increasing your reach, all those pieces, right? And so it comes up when it's meant to come up. But when we like go back to like what can we actually do, it's always that there's an opportunity to shift, change, and unlearn. We're not usually learning. We usually know. I know I'm worthy. I know I da 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 da. Logically, we know a lot of stuff as women because we're really brilliant and talented and smart, but our subconscious mind doesn't, right? That inner part of us, right? I hear a lot of my clients say, like, well, part of me knows this, or a part of me is really scared about that, but like, I know that I'll be fine. I know it's all going to work out. I know it's safe for me to be like, more visible or more successful. But there's a part of me that's scared. But there's a part of me, da 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 da, right? And so, like, what can we actually do? Obviously, the first step is to be aware, right? Gain the awareness. Some of us aren't aware of what that root thing is, because if you don't know what the root thing is, don't even bother working on it, because like it's just going to be like a surface level fix. The goal is to, I always joke with my clients, like it feels like we're in a loop. So we're in like a roundabout and you're just like around and around and around. It's like we need to learn how to exit the roundabout and get out of that loop. And like you're going to go back into it. Absolutely. So practice is the number one thing. If you know what is happening, you've got that awareness, continue practicing, because repetition is what will change those beautiful neural pathways in your brain, right? The things that we use to like, oh, brush our teeth in the morning, do this system, do this thing. You also have them for how you perceive yourself, for what you think is possible about yourself, for what you think is possible about the world, about the amount of money you're allowed to make, about how hard it is to make that money, right? Every single thought that you think is a reflection of your belief system. And every single one of those things can be elevated, upgraded, unlearned, retaught, however you want to kind of share that there. Which when I learned that, I was like, I just got the remote control back in my life. Like I just took back the power. And so that was like that game changing moment for me where I was like, I don't have to live with this fear forever. This isn't just like who I am, which I think a lot of us just like associate that thought with like, nah, this is just who I am. Like I have a fear of success, instead of I've noticed that there's a fear of success. I notice I'm having that. I notice that that's an experience for me, right? So when it comes to mindset and what are we doing about it, you have to have the awareness first.
I love being aware of that differentiator. I feel like that's like a huge shift in like that's just my identity versus this is something I'm noticing.
Yes. Yes. It's a tool I use all the time with my clients, because when we can be aware that it's like over here, it's not who we are, right? I notice I'm having the thought that I don't know how to launch a podcast. I notice I'm having the thought that nobody's going to listen to my podcast. I notice I'm having the thought that my opinions aren't going to be like worthy of being listened to. And you can go through that. You start to separate yourself from it. And it's not so like stuck on you and feels so heavy. It's more like, okay, that's out there. How would I navigate that? And another way I love doing it is, if your bestie was going through this, what advice would you give them? Because your higher self comes through in both of those scenarios, right? To kind of see things through a different lens instead of your own mindset lens, right? We kind of like take that filter off and we put on a different filter.
I love that one. I use that in my like coaching too. And I think it's like my favorite way to be like, what would you say if it was your best friend? It's like super enlightening and it just really makes you shift completely how you are approaching like a situation. This was really helpful. Okay, as we're wrapping up, I would love to hear if you have an unpopular opinion. I mean, we kind of shared some unpopular opinions about like the coaching industry, but about anything we talked about, whether it be mindset or coaching or the industry. What's your hot take, your unpopular opinion on any of our topics?
Oh my gosh. There's so many. There's so
I
many.
know. Like, and also I know that you
Oh,
have them. So I'm like just pick one.
Yeah. Okay. One that I love sharing is I hate the term charge your worth. I think it is the most ridiculous saying
Ooh.
that exists on this planet because your worth is infinite. And nobody on this planet can afford that, unfortunately for you. We love you. So remembering that when you're charging your worth, that when you say that, you are attaching your self-worth to the number that you charge on a package. And like that is such a load of crap. That is not your worth as a human being. And so a lot of us, myself included, had my self-worth tied up in my achievements and my accomplishments and how much money I made and la 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 la. And yeah, right? Like it's me, hi, I'm the problem. And when we can understand that like your self-worth is infinite, it does not go up, it does not go down, it cannot be changed, it is not quantifiable, it just is. That helps you make moves in your business with way less emotion because there isn't validation that you're seeking, right? You're not seeking that, like, if I achieve this, then I'll be that, right? You just already believe that you're worthy. And so if you achieve it, it's more objective instead of so like emotional and subjective, right? You're like, okay, that didn't work. How could I change that? How could I look at that launch differently? How could I shift X, Y, Z instead of being like, I am a failure now, right? And so that's my least favorite saying of all time, charge your worth. And I'm like, ugh, no, because you're teaching women to attach their worth to a dollar amount.
I love that. I actually completely agree with this. I love it. Sometimes when you get like unpopular opinions on the show, I'm always like, oh, I can see that. Or like, this, I'm totally on board. 100%
Well, yeah.
agree.
And like the neuroscience behind it is disgusting. Like we deserve better than that as women, right? And so it's like we've been taught that like our worth is like somehow associated with something we do outside of ourselves. And that's so not true, right? So it's just like things like that have become like the norm. And we just say like, charge your worth and add tax. And I'm like, oh, it makes me shudder on the inside.
I
I'm
know.
like, I
Ugh.
can't. The psych behind that is so unhealthy for us.
Like ad tax. It's such a kitschy, like little like memeable little graphic in
Yeah.
my mind. And I'm just like, it's just so bad. I never liked it. And I'm really glad that you said that because I've always been like, ugh. Like, yeah, maybe your services, like maybe the service is worth more, but that doesn't mean it's your worth, bro. Like,
That's exactly it, right? So then my question is like, well, then who has the answer here? Who has the answer of what your worth is? Like, Laylee, do you have the answer for me? No. Like, what? No.
would you ever have the audacity to like assign a dollar amount to somebody's worth? Probably not.
Yeah, right. And so that's kind of the vibe behind it too, is like nobody has that answer but you.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing so much on the show. And like, we're going to link up where everybody can find you in our show notes, but I know that you're on Instagram a lot, right?
Yeah.
What's your Instagram?
My Instagram's at Tracey, TRACEY .JAZMIN. You can thank my parents for giving me a name I'll never get a keychain for. Oh my gosh, that's such a thing as a kid.
Relatable.
Yeah. Yeah, Etsy. We'll make custom ones.
Yeah, we totally actually should. I know that everyone's going to just love following along with you. Share such great advice just every day. So thank you for sharing your wisdom here, and we will see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks for having me.